You have been listening to Governor Andy Beshear here this afternoon. His daily briefing taking a different turn today in reacting to the news of charges being filed in the Breonna Taylor investigation. The governor saying that he cannot control the decisions made by a grand jury, but he is willing to continue to listen to those that are going to feel pain from today. We are going to continue to follow this. We've got live reports and much more to bring your way this afternoon all across Lexington, also in Frankfort, and then also reports from Louisville as well.
We'll be right back.
Hughes & Coleman has a proud history of helping people who've been hurt.
At Hughes & Coleman, we've dedicated our lives to helping injured people. And you don't need money to hire us. We get paid when you get paid. We've helped our clients recover over $1 billion, and we can help you too. We offer free and confidential consultations, and to make it easy, we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Call Hughes & Coleman, 800-800-4600.
Yeah, I think we're good here. Why do we offer so many active safety features on our Chevy SUVs?
Oh, yeah.
All set. Ready, Freddie?
Because we're not just engineers.
Promise when you get there, okay?
Slowly.
I'm going slow.
We have families too.
Get 15% of MSRP cash back on most 2020 Equinox models. That's over $5,700 cash back on this Equinox. Plus, current competitive owners get an additional $750 cash allowance. See your Kentucky Select Chevy dealers.
All right. In my Johnsonville commercial, we open with a car chase. There's semis, you got a couple of bikers in there, and grandmas on scooters. There's a news reporter down there, and she's going blah, 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 big car chase. Oh yeah, they're chasing the Johnsonville Big Taste Grill. Finally, the driver turns to the guy next to him and says, "Did you leave the sausage on the grill again?" And he goes, "Yep. Might as well put him to good use." I don't know how it ends. It could be an explosion, maybe. And that's commercial made the Johnsonville way.
Owning your own home has its advantages. Whether you're making home improvements or need extra funds to send your child to college, UKFCU can help. Take advantage of our fixed home equity loan with rates as low as 2.74% APR. UK Federal Credit Union. It's banking, only better.
Kick off the season with huge savings at Don Franklin Buick GMC. Drive away in the all-new 2020 Terrain SLE as low as $22,988. Or lease the all-new 2020 Encore GX with Alexa for only $220 per month. Score big at Don Franklin Lexington Buick GMC. We are professional grade.
We all know Mitch McConnell is filthy rich. But do you know how he became so wealthy? His wife's family owns a company that ships cheap foreign coal to China at our expense. Mitch got up to $25 million from him, helping foreign countries compete directly with Kentucky coal miners. And despite massive profits, the company just took up to $1 million in taxpayer money meant for businesses struggling with coronavirus. Mitch's dirty secret is out. He doesn't work for us. Ditch Fund is responsible for the content of this advertising.
WKYT News starts now with breaking news.
Good afternoon. 3 counts of wanton endangerment against one former Louisville Metro police officer. That is the grand jury indictment in the death of Breonna Taylor. Those felony charges against Brett Hankinson, the former detective fired back in June, relate to shots that hit a neighboring apartment unit the night that Breonna Taylor was killed.
Taylor's death has gained national attention. Today, people have gathered in Lexington and Louisville to hear the decision. Here is a live look over Louisville right now. A crowd has been marching all afternoon. They started at Jefferson Square Park as they waited for that decision to come down. WKYT's Garrett Weimer was at Attorney General Daniel Cameron's briefing in Frankfort today as he laid out the case. And Garrett, Daniel Cameron explained the charges specifically and why only Hankinson was indicted.
Yes, and Attorney General Daniel Cameron obviously knows that those wanton endangerment charges against one now former officer isn't the justice that many were calling for in this case. And at this news conference today, Cameron called what happened a tragedy, but also says criminal law isn't built to respond to every tragedy. Cameron says his investigation found the officers knocked and announced themselves at Breonna Taylor's apartment. Now, his office used 911 calls, ballistics reports, and interviews to piece together what happened that night. He says she was shot 6 times. One of them was deadly. That was fired by Detective Miles Cosgrove, according to those reports. But they also found that use of force by Cosgrove and Sergeant John Mattingly was justified after they were shot at. Now, Daniel Cameron today acknowledged the pain that Taylor's family is feeling, but says he had to find the facts.
This is a tragedy. And sometimes the law, the criminal law, is not adequate to respond to a tragedy. And I fully acknowledge that. And I know many that are watching today and those that are listening recognize that as well.
In a tweet, Taylor family attorney Ben Crump said a Jefferson County grand jury indicts former officer Brett Hankison with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in first degree for bullets that went into other apartments, but nothing for the murder of Breonna Taylor. He goes on to say this is outrageous and offensive and adds that Hankison should be charged with wanton murder. Now, wanton endangerment is a Class D felony in Kentucky. That means if Hankison is convicted, he could face up to 5 years in prison for each of those 3 counts. Now, Hankison's attorney tells us he's in the process of surrendering. He also says he will enter a plea of not guilty and does not think the evidence will support those charges. Live in Frankfort, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Garrett, thank you. We are hearing from one of the other officers in the Taylor investigation. An attorney for Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly released this statement defending the grand jury decision to not indict Sergeant Mattingly or Detective Miles Cosgrove. It says in part, quote, "The death of Breonna Taylor is a tragedy, but these officers did not act in a reckless or unprofessional manner. They did their duty, performed their roles as law enforcement officers, and above all, did not break the law," end quote.
Certainly, a lot of feelings and emotions running high today. Governor Beshear weighed in on the grand jury indictment about an hour ago, and so did State Representative Charles Booker of Louisville. WKYT's Victor Puente is live for us from the state capitol with more on that. Victor?
Asked Governor Andy Beshear today if he believed justice had been done. He didn't directly answer that question, but did say he believed Kentuckians deserve to see more evidence in this case. Now, he spent the majority of today's briefing responding to the grand jury decision in the Breonna Taylor case. Beshear started by saying he couldn't control the decisions of Attorney General Daniel Cameron or the grand jury, but he could control what he said and commit to changing. He was joined by J. Michael Brown, that's the secretary of the governor's executive cabinet. He said he believed expectations were built up without full knowledge of what the legal standards are. Brown encouraged people to educate themselves on the grand jury process. State Representative Charles Booker talked about the pain that Breonna Taylor's family is feeling. Beshear also said he believed any evidence in the case that wouldn't impact the charges against Brett Hankison should be put online so people could see it for themselves.
Everyone can and should be informed. And those that are currently feeling frustration, feeling hurt, they deserve to know more. I trust Kentuckians. They deserve to see the facts for themselves. And I believe that the ability to process those facts helps everybody.
Justice failed us today. It failed us in a way that it has been failing us for generations. We are here doing this work. I was elected to do this work because we need to make justice ring true, because it has failed. A woman, black woman, was killed in her home by the agency paid for to protect and serve her. That's wrong. There is no justifying that.
Beshear was also asked about the National Guard's presence in Louisville. He said this time their presence would be limited compared to the last time they responded to those protests. He also said they would be under direct command of the National Guard. Live in Frankfort, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Victor, thank you for that live report.
Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher is now making an announcement, so let's listen in.
Questions in the chat area, and please identify the media that you're with. Thank you. First question, Mayor, is from Steve Bittenbender from Center Square. He asks if you will call on the Attorney General to release the grand jury report. Do you believe the public needs access to that information now?
Yeah, I believe that any information
All right, we pardon for that. He just finished up. We will get you what the mayor said, but he's just now taking questions. So we're going to move on with the news, and we'll get back to what Mayor Greg Fisher had to say in Louisville. We have seen a number of buildings in Louisville boarded up over the past few days ahead of the grand jury announcement. Today, some Lexington businesses were also preparing for possible protests downtown.
Earlier today, Lexington Mayor Linda Gordon urged protesters to remain peaceful. WKYT's Chelsea Jones is live for us in downtown Lexington. Chelsea, what are you seeing?
Well, you guys, we are not sure how things are going to play out later this evening. Obviously, a lot of raw emotion following this afternoon's announcement, and businesses in downtown Lexington are erring on the side of caution. Now, Tony's, for instance, has boarded up its windows. An employee told us the restaurant is not closing, but they are covering windows with plywood just in case there are riots. Not too far from it, App Harvest also taking the same steps. In fact, the same construction company that put up plywood for Tony's also put up plywood for this business.
They've got a lot of money in these businesses. They've spent a lot of money to get these storefronts and these businesses going. So we need to protect them.
Now, we talked to some other businesses in the area who are choosing not to board their windows. In fact, two managers told us they trust the protesters who may come out this evening to remain peaceful. They say they will continue to make that decision on a day-to-day basis. For now, live in Lexington, Chelsea Jones, WKYT.
Chelsea, thank you. President Trump was asked about the grand jury indictment this afternoon. Here's what he had to say.
My message is that I love the black community, and I've done more for the black community than any other president. And I say, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln, and I mean that, with opportunity zones and with criminal justice reform, with prison reform, with what we've done for historically black universities, colleges, schools, what we've done. It's nobody's done more. Abraham Lincoln, let's give him the nod, but beyond that, nobody's done more. I love the black community. I don't know enough about it. I heard a decision was just made.
President Trump reacting to today's decision. A lot of legal questions, of course, today after this decision came down. First, what is first-degree wanton endangerment? So we pulled the KRS statute. Here's what it says. A person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, who wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. This is a Class D felony.
WKYT Shelby Smithson talked to a Lexington attorney to explain today's indictment and the charges announced.
I'm a little surprised by a couple of things.
Even with 34 years of experience in the judicial system, Lexington attorney Scott White still had a few questions after Attorney General Daniel Cameron's explanation of the indictment.
You would think they would also charge him with, if they're going to go the wanton endangerment route, they would have also charged him with wanton endangerment for the shots that went into Breonna Taylor's apartment.
However, the absence of charges directly related to Taylor's death, he says, is clearer.
Once the prosecutor made the determination that the shooting by Cosgrove was justified, then no, you would not expect any charges directly related to her shooting.
But in a case that has gained national attention and is part of racially charged unrest, White says the lack of transparency about the makeup of the grand jury leaves room for too much speculation.
It's very frustrating, and you can understand the anger. And we can all just pray that anger doesn't slip into violence and more injuries and death.
In Lexington, Shelby Smithson, WKYT.
And while the Attorney General's investigation is finished, the FBI is doing its own independent investigation into the Breonna Taylor shooting. That investigation is looking into any potential civil rights violations. Federal investigators were at Taylor's apartment back in June to re-examine physical and video evidence, and they also talked to witnesses from that night. The FBI ballistics report was also a key piece of Attorney General Cameron's investigation. The ACLU called the grand jury indictment, quote, the latest miscarriage of justice in our nation's long history of denying that black lives matter, end of quote. The statement goes on to say, quote, this outcome shows us that true police accountability does not exist in Kentucky, end of quote.
Earlier this month, Breonna Taylor's family reached a settlement with the city of Louisville. The $12 million settlement also includes a long list of police reforms. The agreement requires a commanding officer to review and give written approval for all search warrants. Paramedics must also be present when a warrant is executed. Reforms also include an early action warning system to identify officers with red flags and removes the police chief's option to close cases against officers by exception, allowing an officer to resign or retire without discipline. Since Taylor's death, no-knock warrants are now banned in the city of Louisville. City Council unanimously passed Breonna's law in June. It not only bans no-knock warrants, it also requires officers wait a minimum 15 seconds after knocking and announcing their presence when serving a warrant. Officers must wear body cameras while executing a warrant, turning them on 5 minutes before and off at least 5 minutes after that warrant is served.
Our coverage will continue tonight and through the evening. We'll take a break and be right back.
Football season is finally here. Before the kickoff at Auburn, your all-blue station is here to get you ready. All the experts, all the coverage, all blue. WKYT's all-blue countdown to game time, Saturday at 11:30 on WKYT.
Crossroads Ford is ready to help you save thousands on your next Ford SUV. Right now, get a 2020 Ford Explorer and get 0% APR for 60 months plus up to $5,000 cash back. Crossroads Ford, built to lend a hand and built Ford proud.
When you need a vehicle you can count on, trust Green's Toyota to be here for you like we have been for over 50 years. Check out our 2020 model year-end clearance event by visiting greenstoyotaoflexington.com or downloading our mobile app. We've specially priced all 2020 models with 0% financing on 9 legendary quality Toyotas, including Camry and RAV4, or receive savings up to $7,000 off MSRP. Don't miss Green's model year-end clearance event.
Great people, great cars, great Greens.
Kick off the season with huge savings at Don Franklin Chevrolet. Drive away in the all-new 2020 Equinox as low as $25,994. Or score big in the all-new 2020 Chevy Silverado as low as $32,390. Find new roads at Don Franklin Chevrolet today.
I'm Josh Hicks. After the Marine Corps, I served for 5 years as a Maysville police officer. Put on my gun belt, kiss my wife and kids goodbye, go off to serve my community by enforcing the law. Andy Barr doesn't get to disrespect my service. He's been in Congress serving himself. He sold us out, taking millions from Big Pharma and other corporations, and then turning around and voting against lowering prescription drug prices. I'm Josh Hicks, and I approve this message because I know what it means to serve. Andy Barr does not.
Owning your own home has its advantages. Whether you're making home improvements or need extra funds to send your child to college, UKFCU can help. Take advantage of our fixed home equity loan with rates as low as 2.74% APR. UK Federal Credit Union. It's banking, only better.
Crossroads Ford is ready to help you save thousands on your next Ford SUV. Right now, get a 2020 Ford Expedition with 0% APR for 60 months with up to $8,500 cash back. Crossroads Ford, built to lend a hand and built Ford proud.
Before you see it anywhere else, you'll see it on WKYT's Facebook.
Last year, we visited Senator Mitch McConnell to help minors with black lung.
But we ended up in Amy McGrath ad attacking Mitch.
Problem is, McGrath's ad is a lie, and that's why she had to take us out of it.
Truth is, Mitch visited with us, and he told us minors he'd take care of us, and he did.
Mitch helped minors with black lung and helped protect our pensions, too.
Amy McGrath flat out lied about Mitch.
And Kentucky deserves better.
I'm Mitch McConnell, and I approve this message.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
Hi, everybody. A lot of clouds across the area today, keeping the temperatures well in check again, under even what we talked about yesterday in a lot of cases. Lots of upper 60s, a little rain nearby. Let's get into the forecast. We look into downtown Lexington, where you've got a mostly cloudy sky right now. Temperatures into the upper 60s. So the clouds are tough to scour out. Those clouds are going to be with us, and yep, we're getting in on a couple of those raindrops across the far southern parts of the region. So from Whitley City, Williamsburg, back into Monticello, the Lake Cumberland area, dealing with a couple of raindrops. And this is a pattern that is going to throw rain later tonight and tomorrow across especially the south and the southeast. The farther north you get, the stuff will be much more scattered in nature. It's just going to look the part. It may not kind of rain the part of how it looks, if that makes sense. Here's your low pressure that is formerly beta. This is going to roll its way to the north and northeast. We put this out yesterday, and it still holds true as we go through the day tomorrow. Heavy rainfall going to set up across far southeastern Kentucky. Some areas down here may pick up a quick couple inches of rain. So if you're in the red tomorrow and tomorrow evening, there's the opportunity for some local high water issues. But what will happen, it will be a sharp drop in rain chances the farther north and northwest that you go. Let me show you that on the hour-by-hour forecast. We go through tonight and early tomorrow with a scattered shower or thunderstorm here or there. I do think the rain amounts, though, will be a little heavier across the south. Temperatures tomorrow going to be held in check again. Here's what we've said this all week long, and I didn't even listen to my own advice today. Take the under on the temperatures. Models right now are just jacking everything up way too much. We go into Friday. A little rain left over across the southeast. I think we see more clouds than what the models are suggesting. So let's take a few degrees off that. Lots of low 70s will come into play on Friday. We go into Friday evening. We look to be in pretty good shape for high school football action for the most part, with temperatures that will generally be into the 60s. The long range call as we go into next week. Listen, this is a pattern that for, let's say, Tuesday and beyond of next week is going to take on a full-blown November look and feel. That's right, November filling pattern as we close the door on September and go into the first several days of October. This is going to be complete with systems dropping in from the northwest that can give us winds Tuesday and Wednesday of 40-plus miles per hour, and that cold air is just going to settle all the way in across the eastern part of the country. So any night from, let's say, Wednesday through next weekend can give us a frost or a light freeze potential. That would be very early for both of those possibilities coming up second half of next week into next weekend. Let's worry about this weekend. Right now, things look to be in mainly dry shape with temperatures into the upper 70s, may tickle 80 in a few spots on Saturday. Starting to see that next system rolling in late Sunday, Monday, and boy, that's 60 by next Wednesday. We may stay in the 50s for highs for several days for the end of next week.
There's a collision on the inner loop of Man-O-War just past Tate's Creek. 2 cars involved there. It looks like the right lane's impacted. Outbound Nicholasville Road. Slow traffic at the moment approaching Man-O-War. There's a collision involving 3 vehicles just before Man-O-War on outbound Nicholasville.
Honoring the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg coming up the way thousands of movie theaters are celebrating her life and her legacy.
One Oregon father is helping others after the heartbreaking experience of losing his son. We'll explain how in Better Living.
Get the first alert with the WKYT First Alert weather app.
My officers put their lives on the line to protect and serve our community. But our jobs are harder to do when radical mobs demonize, defund, and attack the police. Josh Hicks sides with them, not us. Hicks attacked police, calling us systemically racist. It's not true. It insults law enforcement, and it fans the flames of hatred and division. Hicks is on their side, not ours. Josh Hicks won't keep Kentucky safe.
I'm Andy Barr, and I approve this message.
Kick off the season with huge savings at Don Franklin Somerset Kia. Drive away in the all-new 2020 Kia Forte LXS, now only $17,255. Or lease the all-new 2021 Kia K5 LXS for $219 per month, $29.99 due at signing. Score big at Don Franklin Kia, now at stoplight number 2 in Somerset.
Last year, we visited Senator Mitch McConnell to help minors with black lung. But we ended up in an Amy McGrath ad attacking Mitch. Problem is, McGrath's ad is a lie, and that's why she had to take us out of it. Truth is, Mitch visited with us, and he told us minors he'd take care of us, and he did. Mitch helped minors with black lung and helped protect our pensions, too. Amy McGrath flat out lied about Mitch, and Kentucky deserves better.
I'm Mitch McConnell, and I approve this message.
When water invades your home, serious damage can follow. This is no time for second best. Get immediate help from the real experts at Paul Davis. Water and residual moisture, when not thoroughly removed, damages floors, walls, and furnishings, as it can create a toxic black mold called Stachybotrys. That's why insurance professionals have been trusting Paul Davis for over 50 years. They know for certain that this is no time for second best.
With the Honda Civic, fun and sporty can also be practical and efficient. Just look at how the Civic LX stacks up against the competition. It has more horsepower and more passenger space than the Toyota Corolla L and Nissan Sentra S. With standard Honda sensing, a suite of safety and driver-assisted features. No wonder the Civic is the best-selling compact car over the last decade. Contact your Honda dealer to learn more or shop online.
I've worked as a nurse in Kentucky for 25 years. I'm also the mom of 2 children and 5 grandchildren. Healthcare is really important to me, and that's why I will never support Amy McGrath. McGrath would vote with the Washington Liberals to ban private and union-provided health insurance, and her plan could put Kentucky's 68 rural hospitals at risk of closing. Amy McGrath is too liberal for Kentucky.
Keep Kentucky Great is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Kick off the season with huge savings at Don Franklin Ford. Drive away in the all-new 2020 Ford F-150 Super Crew for only $38,431, or save up to $11,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2020 Ford Explorer. Win big at Don Franklin Ford today.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg's documentary is returning to the theaters. RBG, the award-winning documentary about the late Supreme Court Justice, and the feature film On the Basis of Sex, starring Felicity Jones as Ginsburg, will be re-released on Friday. It's coming to about 1,000 U.S. theaters. The distributors are donating the net proceeds to the ACLU's Women's Rights Project, which Ginsburg co-founded in 1972. The Better Business Bureau says scammers are using the pandemic to target college students. The organization says it's received reports about employment scams going after students. The scams begin with an email impersonating a professor or a university department with a job offer. And if it's accepted, the student receives a check and is told to send out some money orders or prepaid cards. The then scammer has their money and their personal information. The BBB advises students to research any company offering them work before applying.
It is time now for better living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. President Trump has repeatedly said the COVID-19 vaccine could be ready by Election Day, but new authorizations by the FDA could delay that. Sources familiar with the situation say the FDA is assessing scenarios before giving an emergency use authorization for a vaccine. One scenario could tell vaccine makers that they need to wait 2 months after giving all of their study participants second doses of the vaccine. Another would have companies wait 60 days after giving half of their trial participants a second dose. September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and this year an Oregon father decided to take the heartbreaking experience of losing his teenage son on the road. Chris Martinez caught up with him in Long Beach, California.
Doug Peterson is on an 1,800-mile mission, riding his bike from Canada to Mexico for people whose lives have been touched by suicide. In 2015, Peterson's 17-year-old son, Paige, took his own life.
Somehow depression took over his life in a hurry, we think. He came home one day and he had taken his truck and pulled in our barn and kept it running, and that was it.
After a year of deep sadness, Peterson turned to his bike for some exercise therapy and then set his sights on this multi-state journey. From Washington State through his home state of Oregon and weeks in California, he connected with others who've lost loved ones.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has lost someone, knows someone, directly, indirectly.
A CDC study finds more than 48,000 people died by suicide in the U.S. in 2018. Researchers also say suicide has increased 35% since 1999 and is now the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. Doug's ride was sponsored by the California apparel company Pair of Thieves, which produced these socks that say never alone above the ankle and have the suicide prevention hotline on the toe.
If nothing else, it's just a conversation to have. You know, what are the socks about? Why are you wearing those? What's the story with those?
Peterson has worn the socks every day of his journey.
When you're suffering from depression, you tend to kind of suffer in silence, and you don't ask. And there's a stigma, and we got to get rid of that stigma. Ask the question, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Okay, let's get you some help.
Words he wishes he said to his son and now wants to tell others. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Long Beach, California.
Pair of Thieves is donating $2 from every pair of socks purchased to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
We'll have much more on today's indictment in the Breonna Taylor case. Our team coverage continues ahead at 5:30.